This is the first time I've seen people like ready as soon as we get there. Kind of incredible.
You get higher and higher in the tournament. These are people that they've done this shit before, so they know where to be, know what to do.
That's right. People are ready. Okay, I think that's ready. And then Nevsky from QQ7 and the Haragumo from BONKS. Okay. Boom. Okay, ready. Now we can actually do...
Booyah. Well, everybody is actually completely like readied up and stuff in the training room, so I don't know, they might go any moment now, but then again they might be waiting for actually 3 o'clock Eastern to kick the button off. So if that's the case, we've got 3 minutes to banter. First map's going to be Northern Waters and QQ7 versus BONKS. I don't think I have actually followed any of QQ7's play or BONKS play. I've pretty much just seen the matches that we've cast, and that's been the beginning and the end of it. But I know a little birdie told me that you run a podcast and you interview a lot of these folks. So sure, what do you think QQ7's strength's going to be, and what do you think BONKS' strengths are going to be?
Oh, gosh. Well, QQ7, you and I cast a couple of their matches already earlier in the tournament, and QQ7 was very solidly consistent. I didn't see them do anything too wild. Like, obviously, you and I watched Star quite a bit yesterday, and they had a very surprising but very interesting use of their DDs, which was sort of dynamic and novel. QQ7 has been consistent. They've made very few mistakes, and they have they've just played it basically the kind of caliber that you would expect from someone who's in the last round of 4 here. So BONKS, I have not gotten to see a single game that they've played so far this tournament. I'm excited for them. Special shout out to Sergeant Hattie. Happy to have you here. But BONKS, as I recall, BONKS was always pretty dynamic and novel in the ways that they do so. I think it's because they're young. They're young, so they like to try weird stuff. It comes from watching anime. I don't know.
So the power of youth grants them reaction speed and all that crazy ninja agility and speed and stuff, and they can just style all over people. All right, so exactly. Do you think that's going to translate into like a 7 destroyer lineup where they run around on speed, just dunking on people?
I hope so. I hope so.
I did actually see there was a lot of Kleber play over in Europe. I wasn't quite expecting it, but there was a lot of like 4 and 5 to Kleber kind of games going on.
Yeah, and actually, I caught the very last second of the finals of Rain versus Oh Boy, and a Plymouth was used. Can you believe that?
I don't know why the Plymouth is not good. I know why I will never play it because of its horrendously floaty shells or whatever. But I mean, the fact that it's got the smoke and the radar, I mean, it's like a Minotaur on plus. I can't see why that's a negative. Can you tell me why it's not? Why it's such a surprise?
It's not as well. I don't know. I was trying really hard to figure out what the Minotaur would or what the thing would excel at. Looks like they're already starting to get ready here, so I'm going to go ahead and let them know.
Well, I guess the real question is, did it excel at winning, or did it excel at losing the match that it was in?
It won.
Well, there you go. 100% win rate. It's tested and approved.
So just a heads up, the bands coming in now are Nevsky from QQ7, and we have the Haragumo from BONKS being banned. Nevsky, obviously, that makes sense, because Nevsky is, well, it's a very, very useful ship against DDs. So we'll see that maybe QQ7 is going to be bringing a heavy DD lineup and has banned the Nevsky to avoid taking extra radars and extra damage from those quick high-velocity shells. So, yeah, looks like they're just... Here we go. All right. Let the chat know real quick. Bang. Okay. Let's giddy up. Let's giddy up. Okay. So, very nice. So, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with BONKS, if you don't mind. Coming in from BONKS, we see Ohio Yamato, very exciting. Double Des Moines, Moskva, and then 4 destroyers. We've got Gearing, Marceau, Z52, and Yu Yang. This looks very much like the one of the lineups from Star that we saw yesterday that was so successful, and especially that this map is going to have to actually be one of those maps where those extra DDs can be very, very successful. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it's always a scary thing to be down a DD. You're up in health and up in guns, but you're down in mobility. And over on the QQ7 side, we have the Ohio and the Yamato. Yamato with those gigantic guns, and the Ohio with the endless healing. Well, kind of endless healing. Very fast healing, I suppose. Then we've got 4 Des Moines. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 Des Moines with some destroyers kind of helping them out. We've got a Marceau, a Grozovoy, not often picked, but a pretty stylish one. And we also have a Yu Yang. That is a Yu Yang on both sides in, what is this, semifinal, quarterfinal, like almost final? Damn, man.
This is semifinals, yeah. This is the round of 4. Quick fun fact here. The Yu Yang for the QQ7 side is Palsky, who, if I'm not mistaken, is still stuck in China after he went on a work trip to China and then coronavirus happened. And I believe he's been there for like a year and several months now, very fittingly playing the Pan-Asian Yu Yang. So let's go ahead. Let's see here. What we're seeing from from ChatBonk here in the Z52 is exactly what we've seen from Star multiple times now, which is the Z52 with that 6 km, very long duration hydro. Going to go ahead, make his way towards the cap to radar to hydro that Marceau, who's about to be seen shortly. And then he's going to be gunned down by the Marceau of BONK and maybe even Can'tBonk in the Yu Yang over here. Needless to say, it's going to be a lot of pain coming in on that Marceau over there of Professor Luger.
Yeah, we've got Professor Luger with his bow into a BONK. As BONK continues to move, kind of looks to be slowing down. Those torps are not going to connect, as ChatBonk is slowly reversing his Z52 over into Bravo. No guns opened up here, as the Des Moines don't seem to be able to float the island at that angle, so this is going to be down to a Marceau v Marceau fight, as opposed to multiple shells coming in from multiple angles and forcing Professor Luger into a place he does not want to be. ChatBonk does not have an angle at the moment to be able to assist in this gunfight, and BONK is simply going to push Professor back behind the island. With no other guns, no other assistance, somebody's got island cover and somebody else is open water. That looks like BONK's actually in the worst of the 2 positions until other shells are able to help with the Professor.
Which is exactly what's happening now. We've got shots coming in from the DM and the DMs and the gearing of BONKS trying to put some more damage on that Marceau. Now, we saw this yesterday, where the Z will simply sit here and they will absolutely keep that Marceau lit for the longest time, and then folks are just going to start dumping on it. The Marceau probably making the good choice and deciding to get the hell out of Dodge here, which is going to allow ChatBonk, who's already in the cap, to take it for free. And I believe it's going to be pretty difficult for that Marceau to come back and get it back. Over here at the C cap, we have Can'tBonk's Yu Yang is already about to start contesting the C cap, whereas Palsky's Yu Yang, this is a double Yu Yang setup over here, or Yu Yang versus Yu Yang, has in fact laid a smoke. So he has a smoke Yu Yang for the 2 DMs of QQ7. Deepwater torpedoes finding their mark on one of the DMs of QQ7 as they start to trade. And yes, Unicum has already taken some damage in his Moskva. So some early trades going on here on the C cap.
Torpedoes slipping right by Battleship Nagato. That's skipped right off the hull as turret BONK is being moved forward with the smoke screen from the screening gearing, trying to get that Des Moines into the advanced position over at A on that F1. Grozovoy starts to pop his smoke so Captain Vermicelli can continue the scaring contest, but one is being escorted and looks like turret BONK is ahead in terms of the movement. Triarch is looking over and potentially get some cross shots if he's got any angles, but it looks like he's taking a pretty safe position that's got him behind a rock. Turret BONK's going to be the first one to claim the island. No, shells are coming out. Do they connect? Some of them do, but not many. A few more shells before Turret's going to be able to lock himself behind that island, and he's going to be the thing to be rooted out while Captain Vermicelli continues to move forward. Mirroring each other at A, not much happening here except small exchanges of health, although Captain Vermicelli just got about half his health ripped out, and B is still held in BONKS' favor.
Yep, Vermicelli getting whacked there a little bit, but it's going to be a staring contest over this island here. The one thing to notice here, of course, is that there is a DD in Battleship Nagato with turret BONK behind this island, which means if he wants to, he can actually come around the corner and nuke Vermicelli if the situation arises. So we'll see how they end up trading over here. Well, for some reason, oh no, I'm sorry, I misunderstood there. I saw Polarberg took some shots. I thought it was Triarch shooting at his own teammate, but that's silly. As of course, BONKS now takes control of the B cap, and there is nothing to take it back as the Marceau of Professor Luger has actually moved off to the A cap to assist them there. So we're looking at a little bit of a staring contest here at C, as Kant Bonk has lost about half of his HP in his Yu Yang. And I like seeing this, the Polsky's Yu Yang making a very aggressive push-up with the Yu Yang does not have short duration smoke, but does have quick reloading smoke. So he's working as a mobile smoke factory, allowing those two DMs to crawl forward uncontested. We'll have to see if the Yu Yang of Kant Bonk is a radar Yu Yang, or not, but I don't think he's ever going to be able to be in a position where he can radar those two DMs, as they'll likely take him apart.
Yeah, so looking over at A, while Captain Vermicelli has lost most of his ship, he's going to be able to dig in and get some of those heals off. But one of the biggest things that's happened here is the Marceau of Professor Luger has rotated over, making this into a 5v4. The question is, how are they going to use that? With double Des Moines versus double Des Moines, a Yamato versus an Ohio, it's really going to come down to what destroyer is going to somehow make this play. And we do see Azuki Thighs trying to jump the ridge of that island, get some hits into Captain Vermicelli. However, he's bunkered up fairly tightly, and I think he's going to be there to stay. Big eyes were already called over at Charlie as the Des Moines continue to move forward, driving the Moskva of Uunikum way down into the eye line, trying to run away and definitely out of radar cover. With the double Des Moines against Kant Bonk, he can't cap as he's simply radared, shot, and shoved back off. 3 destroyers now moving over to Charlie for Bonk's sides, trying to see if there's a way into this, but so far it seems they haven't quite found what that angle is for them to somehow get in and take this cap.
You made a really good point there, pointing out that the Marceau of Professor Luger has in fact come over here to the A side to try and make some assistance, but I cannot for the life of me figure out what on earth he's supposed to be able to do. He's not going to be able to... He could dig that Des Moines out by YOLOing around the corner and torpedoing him, and maybe that's the plan here, as he's looks like he's maybe prepping to join Vermicelli on the corner. But if he doesn't do that, I feel like maybe moving him out of the B cap threat zone may have been a mistake, as until they dig out the Des Moines at A, QQ7's not going to be able to get into A and take it. And in the meantime, all this really happened was it allowed the Z52 to help contest C, and that's going to leave them in a pretty precarious position here. And B is wide open with nobody there, and there's no DD to stop it. So we're going to have to see if QQ7 can figure out a way to sort of grab a hold of one of these caps, as they are sitting on none, and the points are ticking.
Yeah, it looks like BONKS is in that commanding positional lead. They've got the 4 destroyers, they've got the map position. That's just how it's going to go. They have traded a fair amount of health off of their destroyers, but it has given them a fair amount of points, as they are up 180 points already. Having just secured C with the assistance of Chatbonk Z52, the Yu Yang of Cantbonk continues to kind of screen, throw torps at a smokescreen, but is not finding any success. Now, they have rescued the cap, which means they do not need to hunt down those Des Moines and kill them. They simply need to keep them out of the cap. Meanwhile, QQ7 over at Alpha continues to find themselves in a no-in situation. They do have 2 destroyers, which could be used in such a way to wrap around the islands and simply YOLO down both Des Moines at the same time. Looks like Professor Luger in the Marceau is either trying to snap up the easy prey of the B cap or position himself for potentially a YOLO run down the 4 line. If both Des Moines fall, then that would easily grant QQ7 an advantage, as it would simply be them versus a Yamato, which could then wrap onto the rest of the map, while they've got that hammer and anvil situation with some Des Moines over at Charlie. But until that move happens at A, it's simply going to stay stagnant, and more points go to BONKS, now 260 points in the lead.
That's right. So BONKS obviously now sitting on 2 caps. Looks like QQ7 has contested the C cap. I can't tell quite if it's been yes, it's sitting that way, so it's contested. I think. Sorry if I got that wrong, folks. First blood going to BONKS as Peachy Deo's Des Moines on the unlucky end of a torpedo from the Z52. That's going to be big for BONKS, because QQ7 already struggling to find a foothold on the C cap now just completely lost their footing here. I think that they need to make a play on the A cap, and they need to do it fast, as they have in fact sent the Marceau back into B, and he's the Yu Yang and the Gearing are waiting for him. He's taken a lot of damage, but he is trading back with Can't Bonks Yu Yang. His guns are not situated properly to fight a DD because he's trying to get to cover. However, look at this dog pile coming in towards Professor Luger, Yu Yang, Marceau, and Gearing of Bonks, all just ready to pounce on him. Once again, we're seeing the power of the 4 DD comp and the ability to be mobile and to react to things and to instigate things better than a less mobile opponent.
Yeah, these fast hyenas traipsing across the field. They've got eyes set on Professor Luger. The question is, how do they get the kill? Shots out from Professor Luger all the way over into Chat Bonk, who's sitting in the Charlie cap, a fair distance out, while Bao Bonk, Can't Bonk, and Battleship Nagato are all kind of circling around looking for a way in. Once they commit and fight is enjoined, which it already is, as Marceau start to light into each other, 13,000 to 7. Professor Luger is not winning this trade at the moment. Long shots coming out from the Des Moines way on the other side of C, but it's not going to be anywhere close enough as Professor Luger does get taken down, but is it going to be a trade? It is.
Oh, it is.
That's going to be a DD for a DD, but Bonks brought 4, whereas QQ7 only brought 3. That's still going to give them the destroyer advantage. They may have taken the damage into their destroyers, but they've still used it to claim the map positions that they have, and they continue to hold. A still holding stagnant. B is no longer an option. QQ7 has to make a move, down almost 460 points.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is the time for QQ7 to decide, hey, something's got to give here. We got to do something. We either have to dig this Des Moines out, which I think may have been the proper strategy before. I don't want to tell these boys their business, of course, but I feel like taking Turret Bonk out here with the Marceau would have been the best use of that resource while it was still there, because a lot of time was wasted sending the Marceau from B to A and then back to B, while the whole time Vermicelli and Turret Bonk have been just sort of having a staring contest over the fence here on this island. But that's basically the reason why they've been unable to take A. A big hit on Battleship Nagato there. Probably deserves that because he forgot the Bonk memo. But here we have torpedoes coming in on sunk cost submarines Grozvoy. I don't know that any are going to connect. One looks pretty solid. He's making his moves. Will he get it around in time? No, he takes a torpedo all the way from Battleship Nagato's Gearing. That resets him. Now he's taking shots from Turret Bonk and from Broad Bonk's Yamato. Is he going to have the acceleration to get away in time? It looks like he just might. Big 18-inch shells coming in, not finding their mark. He will live to fight another day. He may yet cap out A. That would be critical for QQ7 to pull off here, as they are now 650 points behind.
Bonked on the head by Turret Bonk. Sunk cost submarine kicks his heel in and gets the hell out. Does not have any pressure to be able to cap anytime soon. Now, we've seen Captain Vermicelli take the last several minutes to hit the heel cooldown and the heel cooldown and the heel cooldown. That's exactly what sunk cost submarine's going to have to do for the next 4 to 5 minutes. Problem is, they don't have 4 to 5 minutes. They've only got 2 minutes and 6 seconds before these 2 caps are going to tick up and grant Bonks the win. They're still sharking around in mid with their extra destroyers because they've got destroyers to spare. Yu Yang of Polsky is bailing. Warped Chaos has got his bow pointed away from the Charlie cap. Yamato taking long shots, and still nothing happening at A. However, I do see a Polarberg that's slowly sneaking forward toward the cap, and I see some torpedoes that are sneaking in his direction, but it looks like those are probably going to sail just in front of his nose, or maybe he'll catch one of them. But that's at least going to start to contest the first cap for QQ7 in this match.
Polarberg saying, F it, we'll do it live, hopping into A, saying, I dare you, as the Yamato of Broad Bonk says, I got you. Here come the big old shells from the Japanese super battleship. Polarberg returning fire, but okay, no citadels there. He managed to shrug off most of that damage. It will be interesting to see if sunk cost submarines Grozvoy decides to go ahead and try to take on Turret Bonk, as Akazuki thighs. Indeed, shots coming out from him. Ooh, half the health remaining on sunk cost gone. He's just sailing in a straight line because there's really nowhere else he can go as Turret Bonk's coming around the corner. This is going to be a dead Grozvoy shortly here. Down he goes. 19 seconds till we have a Bonks win. This match has been firmly... Oh, chat Bonks! Z52 goes down to the Yamato of Christopher Ailson. Might be too little too late, but a kill on the board. Excuse me, that was the second kill on the board for QQ7. I apologize. But I think it is going to be a little too late. 45 seconds remaining.
Yeah, it did relieve a little pressure, but with only 40 seconds and still not holding a cap. Polarberg is trying to get Alpha, but looks to be being torped over and over and over from the destroyers in the center. As well, they could simply reset them at any time with the Ohio of Sergeant Hattie. There's a Des Moines of Warped Chaos that's actually been able to get into Charlie with the death of the Z52, but there's still a center cap, and that's still going to be a win in now 54 seconds. Polarberg's going to continue to be reset. Actually, looks like I think he's still in the cap, although it doesn't seem to be capping. They're gonna have to get kill after kill after kill, and that's exactly what's going on with Captain Vermicelli and Turret Bach. It's starting to be pushed. Vermicelli can't move. He's got the island behind him. He's not going to be able to swing out. He loses some health. It's not going to get anything there. Torp's moving toward Triarch, but not going to connect as he continues to push forward to try to help Polarberg's Ohio. And that's a lot of sneaky deep water Torps. I think he might catch one on the bow, but then again, it might just be enough to go underneath. However, that's 15 seconds. It was a hit. That is a kill. First game goes to Bonks.
Well done to both teams. Bonks taking game 1 here in this best of 5 series. Let's go ahead and go to that. Nice graphic, guys. Go to horny jail, Bonk. Okay, so game 1 going to Bonk there. The 4DD strategy once again proving to be very, very strong. That's interesting. So I got a little piece of information from Elgar in chat. Elgar, I believe, is he's a member of the 07 community. I can't remember if he's in I think he's in 007. But Elgar mentioning that QQ7 today is missing their caller. Their caller is Lowski, and he is not there today. So that could be a factor here for the remainder of the series, and that could be part of the reason why QQ7 really seemed to be not confident in their moves as they push forward and they tried to adapt to the 4DD strategy. So always a shame to see that, but we'll see if perhaps they sort of figure out, aha, we've seen the 4DD strat already. If they were paying any attention to any of the Star games yesterday, they may have also seen that they should very much expect a 4DD strat here on Crash Zone Alpha as well.
Yeah, the ability to manipulate positions, and frankly, if you lose a destroyer, trade a DD, lose a DD, whatever, who brings more destroyers has more destroyers to trade and can still do more after trading. Right. That could definitely be a big thing. And we can't forget that Bonks is evolved, it's a Pokemon that evolved out of Peds. Peds, of course, being torpedoes. So one would have to expect that if you've named yourself after torpedoes, that you're going to see a lot of torpedoes coming your way, which is exactly what happened to Peachy Deo, who lost the Des Moines over at Charlie from taking repeated Peds while moving around trying to stay in smoke. If we do see more and more torpedo soup, hopefully QQ7 either brings some kind of forward hydro, perhaps in the form of a Z52, or maybe they double down and instead of pulling Des Moines, start looking for some Russian cruisers with that 12-kilometer radar so they can kind of keep themselves safe and see a little bit further out into the future.
Right. So something to point out here as well is that this map here specifically, Crash Zone Alpha, as we saw with Star yesterday, is particularly effective with multiple destroyers, with up to 4 destroyers, because it's a very large map. It's easy to get in and out of the caps, and the destroyers allow you to change the amount of force you have available at any given point much more rapidly than, say, a battleship who's going to take a long time to actually change positions. So I think if Bonks and QQ7 don't change anything up lineup-wise that much, I think this map is going to heavily favor Bonks until we move on to North, which I think QQ7 might do a little better at. But Northern Waters, Crash Zone Alpha, and Trap, especially Trap and Crash Zone Alpha, really favor those heavy DD lineups. So we'll see. QQ7 is going to have to They're gonna have to secure a win here and on North to make it past Trap, which I think is heavily favored on Bonks if they continue to bring the 4DD lineup.
Now, I believe it's the Nevsky and the Haragumo which are banned. So
Yes.
one of these there's definitely a ship that I can always see on this map coming out, being the Wooster. Definitely seeing Moskvas and Stalins, which are going to hug into the islands, provide radar pressure, give a lot of presence, and have to be dislodged. I have to wonder, we saw 2 Yu Yangs in the last match. Now, Yu Yang with smoke is great for moving surface ships forward in a rapid, kind of consistent method. And I don't think Bonks brought a smoke Yu Yang. I never saw it create a smoke cloud. I'm assuming it was in fact just a radar Yu Yang as normal. I don't know if that actually worked out for them. If they do bring a Yu Yang again and it's a radar, is there any way on this map to pull that into an advantage, or do you think they're going to have to abandon that?
That's a good question. I honestly think the only... Excuse me, I'm having a little piece of pita with some hummus. It's my breakfast. I think that the only real position... I think there are 2 positions on Crash Zone Alpha where a radar Yu Yang might actually find itself useful, and one is that center cap, as there are... We've seen several teams now sort of play fast and loose around those 3 islands on the southwest side of the B cap. They're in pretty close proximity there, and a radar from the Yu Yang could light up other DDs, or even we've seen Salem's and Des Moines post up there long enough for other things to shoot them from a distance. So either that, or in the southwest corner, where oftentimes we'll see destroyers sort of jousting with each other down there in the corner, trying to give one team the edge they need in order to actually push around that corner and start to flip the A-cap. So yeah, I think a radar Yu Yang could be more useful on this map than it would have been on Northern Waters, for example, where I think generally speaking, smoke for the C cap and hydro, oddly enough, for the B cap is a bit more of a reasonable choice, I suppose.
I do have to note, QQ7 seems to have created a lot of sub swaps in this case. Before, I think there were quite a few members of QQ7. We were for a short time all the way down to only 3 members out of 9, as several AP and UR teammates came in. It does look like they're back up to 4. I wonder if they're doing a lot of roster swaps after that first one, trying to find, you know, the Emperor's new groove, kind of find the clothing that's really going to fit for this Crash Zone Alpha if it just didn't quite catch that first match.
It's entirely possible. I want to point out here real quick, because this is very interesting, that the team of QQ7 does in fact have quite a few. I should point out that, of course, in King of the Sea, oftentimes you'll see teams that are named after the clans that make up the majority of their players. But that's not a requirement. You could make up, like TNG, for example. If I wanted to, I could take a whole bunch of TNG guys and I could call my team name 07 if I wanted to. It's not technically against the rules. I'm sure they'd be like, excuse me, we know what you're doing and we frown upon this. But so this is the QQ7 team, and right now there are 4 QQ7 members, but there's also Pichi Deo is from UR, Woshi Daiganzi is from AP, along with Christopher Ailson and Polsky. Those are all AP members. And Polarberg, of course, is coming from 07. So this is a pretty diverse clan that's being, or I guess team, I should say. And look at that. There's Duke. Duke is actually one of the COTS admins. He's done an enormous amount of work. He created the installer that we've all been using as streamers to put the COTS assets together to make this nice and smooth for you guys. Duke is playing on the QQ7 team. Looks like he joined QQ7 recently. Well, nice to see you, Duke. Thanks for all your hard work. If you see Duke in chat or in game anywhere, please be nice to him, as he did a lot of good work for us.
Yeah, I'm going to call it now. Next King of the Seas, we're going to have a 0-7 devastating stonk team try to somehow sneak its way up into the semis, but who knows. It is called In the Battle. I think it was about 1 minute. It seems a whole bunch of everybody is ready, but they just had a little bit of ironing out to do. And that's the match underway. We're going to go into Game 2.
Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look here. I'm going to go ahead and start us off with the BONKS side. I think, where am I? There we go. So coming in from the BONKS side, we have Ohio Yamato, which is, I believe, the same as last time. We have Des Moines, Moscow, Stalingrad. So you did absolutely call it. They have a couple of heavy Russian cruisers for those corners. And then 4 DDs, once again, Gearing, Marceau, and Yu Yang. Whether that is a smoke or radar Yu Yang, yet to be determined. Although I think radar Yu Yang is a fair shot.
Could be. He's can't bonks either going to be able to can't smoke or can't radar, but one of those will be a can't. Over on the QQ7 side, we've got a Yamato Montana. Montana bringing a large amount of throw weight, and Yamato bringing some large amount of large shells. We've got, as well on the cruiser side, we have a Des Moines, a Goliath, and a Minotaur from Polarberg. I think that's a little bit of a high-risk, high-reward situation. Have to wonder if that's a smoke or radar as well.
Look at this Chad in the Minotaur. Look at this guy.
And we have, once again, 4 destroyers on both teams this side. Wow, my words are completely flawed today. We've got a Marceau, we've got double Shimakaze versus the Gearings. That's going to be a gun difference, and a Yu Yang.
Yeah, so really interesting here is the choice of the Minotaur. The Goliath is an obvious choice, as the Goliath can operate on a flank nearly independently as long as he's not getting focused by a battleship. He can effectively deny a flank push by himself. We've seen Goliaths used to extreme effect so far in that regard, as being able to blunt a push around a flank. That doesn't have a battleship supporting it. So right away, here we go. We're seeing 2 destroyers from each side. 2 destroyers from each side going to go ahead and contest the BCAP. The Yu Yang of Camp Bonk is doing exactly what you had suggested, which is I think he's going to be here in the middle, specifically to help radar anything that posts up behind these islands at B, which looks to me to be possibly Polarberg's Minotaur. We'll have to see exactly where he ends up, but I have a sneaking suspicion he's going to be right there behind that island, just west of the BCAP.
Yes, the sneaky Minotaur was actually able to get all the way to Bravo without needing a smoke. There goes the radar. That's going to show both enemy DDs of Cant Bonk and Bao Bonk. Shells already out toward Bao Bonk as Polarberg opens up initially on Cant, swapping over to Bao, and they are both angled very successfully against the incoming AP shells, while Polarberg is, right now, open water and not in smoke. There's a Moskva looking long range, as well as the large shells of an Ohio from Sergeant Hattie. If those shells come out and connect with this Minotaur, that's going to be a really unpleasant situation. Multiple AP shells coming in, and Cant Bonk's going to be getting out with about 7,000 of his health ripped out. There's some large shells from the Ohio. Are they going to connect with this Minotaur? If they do, this could be nasty.
Oh no! Hattie, you had that coming, didn't you? Hattie, smarting from a recent experience, felt like using his Ohio to dev strike Polarberg's Minotaur. Absolute travesty. I'm so sorry, Polarberg. You are going to have to sit and watch the rest of this match here. Well, folks, you don't see Minotaurs very often, and that's the reason. They are extraordinarily fragile to battleship and cruiser shells. That is 1 ship down for QQ7 right out of the gate, as the Gearing of Chat Bonk is going to go ahead and take A. No one will stop him. A is for Bonks. However, Duke's Shimakaze has already secured C for QQ7. QQ7 on the board with a cap point, and looking very strong up here as the Goliath of Voshi Daiganzi is in a great position to help Duke out if he were to be spotted by Battleship Nagato.
Yeah, definitely a forceful taking of Charlie, even though Battleship Nagato is going to try to contest. Shimakaze should be able to outspot and force the Gearing off, unless the Gearing is legendary. I think, even still, with the Goliath parked right on the Shimakaze's shoulder, that's definitely not going to be something that Bonks is going to be able to contest. Bravo right now, it looks a little more fluid. The Triarch and Wreckful of QQ7 with the Marceau Shimmy could probably take the fight against a Yu Yang Marceau, as Can't Bonk has already lost half his health. That being said, Triarch is bailing out of B, going for a long turn. I think he's actually going to abandon Bravo in favor of Alpha, which right now QQ7 is outnumbered 3-4, reinforcing the A flank. I don't know if he's going to be able to take it, whereas B, well, it might be a bit of a brawl, but I think they might be able to take the brawl and take it out in the end.
Yep, so once again, QQ7 maneuvering their middle. Oh dear, let's see if Woshi gets woefully wrecked here by... Oh my god! Broad Bonk finding the broadside of Woshi Daiganzi. That is 2 near dev full HP dev strikes coming in from the battleships of Bonks, taking down QQ7 cruisers. I'm just... Oh man, that's huge. That's such an enormous boon for Bonks now, who can probably start to figure out where they can apply more and more pressure. C is not going to stay in Duke's hands for very long, as Battleship Nagato, can now move up with the added pressure of Uunikum's Moskva. Moskva absolutely extraordinarily good at pushing a DD out of a cap. 12-kilometer radar, lots of armor, lots of HP, high velocity, fast firing HE guns, and Duke is beating a hasty retreat, probably wondering what in the hell he's supposed to do now. Moving back over here into the AB area, Stalingrad turret Bonk taking a lot of damage here as Akazuki thighs. Looks like he seems to be backing up a little bit, probably realizing that they now have a major momentum advantage over the entire map and deciding not to risk too much while they sort of wait and see what QQ7 does. 2 caps to 1 contested now in favor of Bonks.
Yeah, and as soon as they saw Triarch over at A, you immediately see Baobonk reversing, turning around, and looking to run down Wreckful Shimakaze. If this is, in fact, a radar Yu Yang, that radar is going to be able to slice through the smoke of Wreckful Shimakaze, and Wreckful knows this and runs. Can't spell Bonk without B. Turns out, when you take the magic letter, they're going to take it, and if they double it up, they've got 2 BBs in the form of Sergeant Hattie and Broad Bonk that have already sent Polarberg and Woshi Daiganzi to horny jail. That's going to be 9-7, with Bonk absolutely dominating all 3 caps right now, with the Marceau of Bao Bonk keeping his bow forward, looking to bonk Wreckful on the head as the Yu Yang comes in for the assist.
Horny jail indeed. That's good. Wish I had thought of that. Wreckful here tossing torpedoes in vain at Baobonk, as we're about to watch what Marceau do best, which is slap the smack out of another DD, and that's exactly what he's about to do to Wreckful. Wreckful doing some very nice juking and dodging here as he's trying so hard to keep away, but there is no way that he's getting away from that Marceau, especially not with a Yu Yang behind him, as his smoke was already used to be the first retreat. I'm talking through burps like an absolute animal. Somebody slap me. Wreckful going down here in a moment. That's going to be 3 ships down for QQ7, and this was the map that they really needed to win in order to prevent Bonks' 4 DD strat and clear practice with it from running away with this series. This is going to set up a tall order for QQ7 to have to come back from in the next couple matches.
Yeah, I think this one is all over except the point trade. For all intents and purposes, Bonks has got this one, and there's just no way back. Outside of some extremely crazy plays happening at A with the Des Moines Marceau Yu Yang of Yamato of QQ7, if they go Dev Strike, Dev Strike, Dev Strike, Dev Strike, well then they'll still have to take those 4 ships and march them all the way across the map, taking Bravo and Charlie as well. As the Peds of... Pevaji uses his magical mind force powers and sinks the Peds just before they get to his Montana, but unfortunately Duke lacks the mental magic force power or whatever to keep DDs off of him, and that's going to be shells into ship, and down goes ship. It's going to be 5 ships to 9, as Bonk has pretty much the whole map and is just running QQ7 to the edges and seeing how much they can push this before they take the win.
Yep. Unfortunately for QQ7, the writing is in the stars on this one, as looks like our intrepid heroes over at A are still trying to figure out just how to get around here. I feel like I almost wanted to say that the that QQ7 was lacking a certain amount of initiative to try and take some risks and make some plays, but unfortunately, the Minotaur, I think the Minotaur early on was a very interesting idea. Perhaps just got mispositioned a tiny little bit and got bonked real hard there, so to speak. So, gosh, I'm trying to rack my brain now to figure out what QQ7 does differently, as Akazuki Thighs does in fact go down at A. However, he held that corner for so long that this game is essentially over now. Yeah, what do you think?
Well, I do think the Minotaur play in mid had potential. It had a lot of potential in that the Minotaur did not have any form of smoke, any form of warning that he was able to sneak all the way up to that center area. Whereas a Des Moines or other ships would have to rely on destroyer assistance to get there. Maybe if QQ7 had been able to bait a fight early, get those destroyers from Bonks to commit, see a little bit of bloodlust or something, and chase after that target, they might have chased directly into the guns of the Minotaur, in a strong position behind an island. As it was, he made a hard turn to try to duck, but he didn't have enough turn to be able to slide behind rocks, and the shells of the Ohio just went right over the rocks into the Citadel, and down went Fraser. This one's going to be cleaned up as game 2 goes to Bonks, and this is a best of 5, so QQ7 absolutely could get some kind of reverse sweep here, but it's definitely an uphill battle.
Yeah, this is like I said, this is a tall order for QQ7 to come back from in this present setup here. I think it's worth pointing out that we have had confirmation from the chat that QQ7 is missing their primary caller, and I gotta say, it really does feel that way. It feels the choices made feel sort of on the fly, and they feel a little less thought out than I'm used to seeing QQ7 play at. For example, like you just mentioned, the Minotaur in the center, right? Not me if I'm wrong. He went center along with. He was sort of buddied up with the Marceau, right? I think it was the Marceau.
The Minotaur that went center, there was a Marceau as well as a Shimakaze is what it was. So I think the Shimakaze was actually close. Okay. No, it was Triarch and the Marceau. Marceau was over there. Shimakaze was wide. Right. And yeah, so there was
smoke to the Minotaur.
Yeah, so there was no smoke in case the Minotaur got spotted, which is exactly what happened. Now, granted, that Yu Yang over on Bonk's side seemed to be, did actually seem to be a radar. I never saw it cause smoke, and I'm assuming that's exactly what happened. So even if the Minotaur had a smoke puff, knowing that there's a Yu Yang on the other side, maybe they just elected, we can't use the smoke cloud, we have to use the island, and there just wasn't the ability to cut that turn to be able to get safe and sound before the guns of the Ohio, met their mark. But yeah, I was a little surprised. The only thing that confused me there was once they had lost the Minotaur, it could have been that they lost Bravo, but I don't think they had to. They did have 2 Marceaus at full health, one on one side, one on the other, and then they had a full health Shima versus a half health Yu Yang. If they really push the issue, the Yu Yang Torps cannot interact with the QQ7 destroyers. And the guns of the Shimakaze, I mean, Yu Yang guns similar to a Gearing, but Shima guns are not a joke. As long as you're landing those shells, that's a good amount of oof. You out-healthed them. You could have pushed, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right about the fact that the Shimakaze guns are not something to be trifled with. They're very high velocity for destroyer guns. I think the initial velocity of is nearly 1,000 meters per second, which is, I think the fastest shells in the game are like 1,100 or 1,200 meters per second or something ridiculous like that. I don't remember what it is. But over 1,000 meters per second is anything over like around 1,000 is fast enough to do just about whatever you need with it. And they have the Shima DD shells, I think, have the highest HE damage of any DD shell. Of any tier 10, 128 20 millimeter armed shell.
Isn't it like 1,900 damage? Isn't that like almost AP levels of oof?
I'm not sure. I know it's over 2,000 for sure.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, the HE shells. Yeah, they do a lot of damage. Well, I mean, each one's maximum damage, assuming it's citadels, I believe, is somewhere around there. But you don't usually get citadels with HE from a destroyer, so I think you can pretty much only do that against like a ranger or something like that. But yeah, again, the whole point, all of that nonsense was just to say that the guns of a Shimakaze, when properly trained on something, can slap hard and consistently. So, yeah, definitely not something to mess around with there. But let's talk about the next map here. So we're moving on to North. North is, I want to say, a much more contained map. It feels smaller in terms of the actual area where folks tend to get into conflict. So I'm guessing this is QQ7's opportunity to pull this back here. I think the opportunity to sort of make use of the fact that if they're down a caller, this one has I think a few more obvious answers. So I expect them to throw a Marceau into C. The sort of quick capping strategy of a Marceau that runs into the C cap either from behind or from the front, caps it and runs off. I expect to see that. Yeah, I expect to see. I expect to see some. I don't know if they bring a Minotaur for this one. I think Minotaur really only works on Crash Zone Alpha, but when it does move or when it does work. But yeah, I expect them now to realize that they're getting outplayed by the DDs, and that they have to sort of. I think we might see from QQ7 now what we saw from XPN yesterday when they went up against Star and lost several times, and then went, okay, we're losing to these DDs, which means we need to see the DDs and we need to hit the DDs, which means we need to bring Moskvas, and Moskvas, or Nevskis. And of course, no Nevskis in this match because it is one of the bans, but I think they will try to adapt to that.
I'm gonna have to agree with that. And as you did mention, so if QQ7 is lacking their caller on, it's fortunate to know that North is just so often played. It's played in ranked. It's played in played in clan battles. I mean, there's so many people that have played this so many times on the higher competitive scene that, I mean, it's almost like muscle memory. I mean, it's just rote, really. So the ability to bring cruisers, I have to wonder if the Minotaur actually was what you were saying, kind of like an anti-destroyer innovation, so to speak. It just turns out that, I mean, the shells of a battleship, they hurt. So it was an anti-destroyer move, but the battleships were still broad and it didn't work out. So sure, going over to Moskvas, going over to things that's got that high velocity shell stuff, we could see potentially some Venezia play, perhaps somewhere over in Alpha. I have seen a few Venezias used. Maybe they don't push the 910 line, but they're really good at stalling people that are trying to push the 910 line. The ability to kite back further and further and further. And while Venezia, does have sap shells, it also has AP. AP is underutilized on that ship, but what it does have, it doesn't have a lot of pen, but it has a lot of retention of what penetration it does have, all the way out to some 18, almost 20 kilometers away. It remains to be a dev striking Citadel threat against a Moskva or a Des Moines or any of those cruisers that have that decent but weak enough Citadel armor that if that Venezia plants himself up on the 10 line in a corner, you cannot ignore that. You have to deal with it, and it can stall.
Yeah, Goliaths and Venezias both really capable of doing that. We've seen that from several teams where they prevent themselves from being flanked on the 9-10 line, like you were just saying, by putting a Goliath or a Venezia and just saying, hey, just run north or south, depending on which side you're on, of course. And that literally prevents your upper line from being flanked and shot in the side. So we'll see if one of them does that. I'm guessing that's what'll happen. So do we have a consensus on whether the radar Yu Yang is a thing? Did it? I don't recall if it made itself felt in that match there or not. I was a little too excited by all the devastating bonks that happened.
I'll be honest, I can't see a position on this map where Radar Yu Yang would be able to do much of anything. The A contest is going to come down to smoke, which could be a Yu Yang, but with the torps that are kind of conditional, I mean, you're going to have to start pulling your cruisers in really close if they're going to have to deal with the enemy destroyer. You might get lucky and land some of those torps in on smoke, and, well, technically, deep water torps are very hard to detect, But realistically, if you're bringing cruisers to smoke somewhere over in Alpha, they're gonna be bringing hydro. If there's two, they'll just hydro and then the other will hydro. So they'll see the low detection torps regardless. I think more of a staple over there would be a gearing, just for that longer duration smoke. But I suppose if they were going to overwhelm the A-cap, they could bring a Yu Yang so that they could overwhelm it and keep pushing rather than kind of stalling out. Otherwise, on Charlie and Bravo, I just don't see it. I think there's going to be radar from cruisers for Bravo and radar for cruisers for Charlie, as well as that 910 push. That the 7.5 kilometer stuff, I just don't see how it makes it happen.
Sure, yeah. That's a really good point. And in fact, right over there at the A-cap now, we've been seeing a lot of those cruisers that get smoked up by, I suppose, whether it be a gearing or maybe even a smoke Yu Yang or something, or a Shimikaze, something with, a long enough smoke that they can get away with smoking up their cruiser and then backing into the cap. And then we've seen Woosters, we've seen Nevskis, we've seen Des Moines, we've seen all sorts of things that get left in that smoke to try and help them support the A-cap, because there's nothing at the A-cap to hide you other than just the smoke and the guns of your allies. So good Lord, what is happening in this training room battle chat? These guys are talking about Polarberg having to pee and get a poop bucket and a pee sock. It's almost like Bonks is a clan full of Zoomers. My poop sock is a 3-in-1. What the hell is wrong with these guys? Okay, game 3 getting started. Good Lord. Let the chat know. Jesus. Oh, sorry. I'm not supposed to show the chat. I can't get rid of it now. Okay. So, game 3 here on North. Bonks in the lead, 2-0. I'm going to go ahead and start with Bonks. Bonks coming in this time with Yamato Kremlin, the big guns, Des Moines, Salem, Venezia, like you were calling for, and Stalingrad. 3 destroyers this time, down to Gearing, Daring. First time we've seen a Daring this series, and Shimikaze. Very interesting that they chose to slim down to 3 destroyers.
Yeah, but turns out they were they thought that was slimming down. Well, QQ7 went even slimmer, only bringing 2. They've got a Kremlin Montana for the throw weight, Kremlin for the bow tanking. We've got Des Moines, and a Minotaur. Minotaur from the last time, that might have been a bit of a sting, but I'm sure he's got something to prove going forward. And rather than going with 3 destroyers, they filled that 3rd destroyer spot with a Venezia. Now, the Venezia can smoke, but its detection leaves something to be desired in terms of driving it like a DD. That leaves a Shimikaze and a Marceau. There's no healing on the destroyers of QQ7, unlike the Daring, which can contest from Chatbonk. So this Marceau might go for that early Charlie cap as he kicks on the afterburner, but the Shimikaze is going to be hard-pressed to deal with not only screening Alpha, but somehow also holding B? I don't know how that one's going to happen right now.
Yeah, the 2, I'm gonna call it right now, folks. From everything we've seen during this COTS and everything I remember from the last COTS, you bring 2 DDs, you're in trouble. Hopefully, I think what we're going to see here is we're going to see the Des Moines of Duke attempt to keep anything from Bonks out of the B cap. But I have a strong suspicion that Sergeant Hattie is going to see that up here in his Yamato, and he's going to say, "Well, Duke, back to port with you." As those huge Yamato shells can rip right through the deck, right through the upper hull, right through the bow of a Des Moines. So I don't know that Duke is really going to be able to perform that function for that long. Coming in over at C, we are seeing exactly what I thought was going to happen from QQ7, which was the Marceau diving like it's his job for the C cap, taking some shots already from the Kremlin of Broadbonk, as it looks like he may have been spotted briefly by the Shimikaze of Cantbonk. God, so many bonks. Lord have mercy. Duke already taking a hit there, probably from that Yamato, like I had suggested. Hattie himself taking 27,000 from the guns of the Montana of Christopher Ailson, as Professor Luger now into C, gonna cap that out, then going to run like crazy. Is he gonna get spotted and reset? No, he will not. Okay.
It was close, but he made it. And you are correct, the Marceau did actually get tagged visually by the Shimakaze, triggering a Kremlin shot from way the hell far away. Didn't get led enough as it landed just behind him. The afterburners kicking in on that Marceau, and shells are coming out. Luger is spotted, looking to be shot from multiple angles as he's trying to get out now from BONKS Stalingrad moving up. Torp's already ejected from the Marceau, don't have more for BONK, and they're going to go for the Shimakaze, but I don't think they're going to connect. Turret Bonk coming out. Salem's actually going wide on the 9 line, catches him as he's trying to run with the fast firing guns of the Salem. That's going to be racking up some damage as Professor Luger is looking to run the hell away. Salem is going to go behind the island shortly, and that's going to lose any ability to shoot in. However, Stalin shots cutting back through the middle. Professor Luger was able to take Charlie Cap, but he left about 20,000 points of health as he ran away from it. That's quite a trade, but that is going to give QQ7 a 50-point lead before, well, really the Shimakaze has actually bailed. Bonk has left that cap completely. Stalingrad of BONK unable to contest, and Turret Bonk simply charging down the 9 line, trying to keep after this Marceau, trying to get damage in.
Professor Luger still spotted somehow. Now it looks like he's finally dark as he, probably breathes a heavy sigh of relief after about 90 seconds of terror there. Chat Bonk, Jesus Christ, you guys. Chat Bonk has successfully capped out B as Duke was forced to face the other way to avoid taking more shots from Sergeant Hattie's Yamato. Unable to contest the B cap in that way, it is now 1 cap to 1 cap. However, only a matter of time, I believe, until the Shimakaze of Can't Bonk, I'm going to get this right, you guys, turns his ass around and sticks it in C, as the Shimakaze of Polsky has in fact taken A, or I almost said AP, for QQ7. Now, the fact that they committed only a Des Moines to try to guard B was basically so that they could put more ships out on the out on the western and eastern flanks. However, I'm not seeing really the strategy wherein they use this numerical superiority to push. So we're still seeing the 2 Des Moines of Triarch and Pichideo. They're ways back here. Maybe it's possible they're just being, conservative and cautious as they approach, not wanting to get Kremlin in any way. But they do have 4 ships over here on the 9-10 line. They have a Kremlin. They got 2 Des Moines, which is a very powerful pushing force. 2 Des Moines and a Kremlin. The Marceau, like you said, though, the Marceau losing so much of his HP early on is a major problem because Marceaus really rely on having enough HP to essentially run down and out-trade other destroyers and even cruisers at times.
Well, so far I do have to hand it to QQ7 for being able to take the early game. Why? Because they committed so many assets to this 9-10 line, the double Des Moines, the Kremlin, etc. That takes about 4 to 5 minutes really to set up, as they've only just gotten in position and are starting their push. By bringing the Marceau and charging it into Charlie, they did not cede that cap, they took it, and then looks like BONKS took about 4 minutes before they were really even able to contest it. Well, that gave QQ7 the time to rumble their siege machines into position, and now that they're going to start slow pushing, they do have to face down a Salem and a Kremlin, not a small feat by any means, but unfortunately their Marceau losing so much health means their return cap pressure is extremely low. I don't see the way forward, but again, this is something that competitors are constantly on this map. Meanwhile, Bravo has fallen to BONKS. That one fell real early as Double O Duke had no pressure to be able to reset the daring, and with only 2 destroyers, one of which now is down to 7,000 health, the QQ7 was able to snag A and is currently holding on to it. But the other 2 caps now land in BONK's possession. They're going to slowly climb up in points, with QQ7 only holding about a 50-point lead.
Yep, BONK, I think the spidey sense of BONK triggered, and he moved forward just in time to dodge a very nice salvo of AP from the Montana from across the map, likely preserving. I think we saw Ducky Shot bite it there yesterday after a cross map salvo. That spot right there is suspiciously exposed. It's more exposed than you would think. I haven't been in college in a long time, so my vocabulary is getting worse. But yeah, like you were saying about the 9-10 line here and about Venezias and Goliaths in general, right now, Turret Bonk Salem is also a pretty decent tanky cruiser in that regard because of the super heal. However, he's in a nose-in position. He's all by himself, really, and it's not a long-range Venezia or Goliath. So if QQ7 wanted to push, first blood going to QQ7 as Chat Bonk. I didn't even see where he died. He died right over here. He got Minotaur down. Wow. Okay, Minotaur earning his salt. Well done to QQ7 picking up first blood in this match.
Absolutely. The Minotaur had rotated over, and using a series of pencil torps actually ended up forcing forcing the daring of Chatbonk forward and out of cover. As the Minotaur had rotated over, Chatbonk was stuck staring at him, unable to reverse because of the torps behind him, and Polarberg simply called in for additional fire. Shots from the Montana, shots from the Venezia, and Chatbonk slowly but surely bow in, thump, 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 went from full health down to half, down to 3, down to dead. That's going to open up Bravo pretty significantly. Akazuki Thighs from Bonk is now over there trying to protect it with a nose in position and ready to radar, but there's nobody there to threaten Bravo. Meanwhile, QQ7 still holding their rocks in positions as they forward up their Kremlin, looking to use this as the battering ram that's going to break through somehow. Salem of Turretbach not showing himself in any way, shape, or form, which means double Des Moines plus a Kremlin are going to be farming down the Kremlin of Broadbonk, and Broadband is known to go out sometimes, especially under significant duress. If this Kremlin does go down, that's going to open up a lot of movement potential. That Salem might get pinned, and the Shimakaze might be run down. If C falls, QQ7 will take control of this map.
Yeah, and I want to point out that it is still actually very close right now. Only a single kill on the board, and that was the daring that we saw go down just a minute ago when we spoke about. So at the moment, QQ7 up by about 34 points. They're in a much stronger position now than they were in previous matches, as they seem to be playing a little more conservatively, but also a little more purposefully, I want to say. Don't take no offense, fellas. I don't mean to cast any aspersions by that, but things looking more coordinated, things looking more confident here for QQ7. They're working carefully now to work on Broadbonk's Kremlin. However, what a Kremlin does is eat damage, and that's exactly what it's doing. It is tanking everything that they can throw at it as they finally get a chance to put some damage onto Cantbonk, while Baobonk Stalingrad getting pushed further and further away as he simply cannot sit there and bow tank anything anymore. This is what we needed to see from QQ7 in order to pull this match away and continue on in this series. They're actually managing to slowly but purposefully dig out the ships that are exposed and vulnerable, like that Stalingrad of Baobonk. Like really, really great play by Polarberg in getting that daring to essentially be trapped and then murdered by the Minotaur. So we'll see here if they can actually make a play. Professor Luger's best option right now might be to YOLO the Salem, which he could do because there's really nothing else to stop him.
Well, I think he might be spotted, proximity or otherwise, and being spotted in front of a Kremlin, those guns hurt, especially close range with only 7,000 health. I don't know if he'd be able to wrap the island and get to his target before he's able to torp, but if they can dislodge this Kremlin, that's absolutely something that could happen. Shells out into Fevig, they go right over Professor Luger, didn't even know they were there, as the Marceau and the Minotaur of Polarberg now have eyes for Charlie. The Stalingrad of Baobak has been driven off, no longer there to help. A Des Moines is positioned kind of near B, trying to chuck some shells in, but does not have the range to be able to hold Charlie against Professor Luger's Marceau. With the Des Moines position, Treyarch and Pichidayo have advanced up the 910 line, but the Salem of Turretbonk not to be dislodged as Fevig stuck in a crossfire between a Des Moines and a Kremlin. Not a fun place. But by taking forward, by battering ram through, they're going to claim possession of Charlie. That'll be 2 caps to 1. And currently, QQ7's only down by about 40 points. Within just about a minute to a minute and a half, they will overtake, and they will force Bonks to somehow take a cap from them. And A looks pretty secure right now, and looking at Charlie, that's looking really secure too.
Absolutely. It's now a 3-minute game until QQ7 walks away with this one. They've done a much better job of playing methodically, playing carefully, and playing purposefully, like I said before. And they're just slowly starting to wear down the Bonks ships. HP-wise, Bonks is sitting on about a 70,000 point deficit at this point. His turret bonk now finally getting into the action here against Triarch, but Salem versus DM, it's sort of like a slap fight, really. Just gonna sit there and just gonna slap each other. Best case scenario in these cases, in most cases, ladies and gentlemen, is you AP the turrets of the opposite guy and you break them before they break yours. As generally speaking, they can't do enough damage to actually kill one another in any good time. As Fevig now pushing very aggressively up in his Kremlin. If he goes too far, he may be exposed to Baobonk, Stalingrad, or even a cross-map shot from the Yamato of Sergeant Hattie, who, he is no stranger to the devastating bonk, that's for sure. Cross-map shot from the Montana of Christopher Ailson coming in on Broadbonk's Kremlin. We'll see if they connect here, but QQ7 looking very, very strong.
Whoa, but Fevig is walking into a wall of torpedoes from this Shimikaze. He kicks it into full speed ahead, but I still have to wonder if one of those Shimitorps is going to clap right on the side. There is still a Stalingrad of Baobonk as he opens up. Whoa, that is going to be a Torp, and that's going to be shells from a Stalingrad and even more shells from a Yamato crossing the map into Fevig, down to 23,000 health. As he rounds the corner, Turret Bonk still engaged, hiding behind the island, scared of the guns of the Kremlin, but I don't know if Fevig is going to be able to go fast enough to get a ram into Broadbonk. This might be the loss of a Kremlin for very little result. If that starts to be the gates of Charlie opening back up, that could be massive. Meanwhile, over on Alpha, Bonk's going for a pressure play. With no radar, no detection capabilities at all, the gearing of Battleship Nagato has moved forward, smoked, and stepped on the cap for as long as he can. As Fevig does, in fact, go down, that's going to swing a bunch of points over to Bonks, and... oh wow, according to this timer, it is neck and neck, but with one cap and only one cap, looks like Bonks actually takes this by about 1 second. So some cap somewhere is going to have to be stepped on, some kill is going to have to be traded, otherwise Bonks takes this 3-0 in just under 2 minutes.
Yep, that's absolutely right. And I think the gearing has, Battleship Nagato has stopped stepping on the cap of A, so it's now 2 caps to 1. However, Bonks does win this in 1 minute 51 versus 1 minute 52. I agree. I don't know. It's not swapping anymore. The projected winner is not swapping anymore like it was a second ago. But there's it's so close. A single kill could swap this. If anybody steps on B from QQ7 side, if someone steps on B for even a second, that would swap the cap circle. That would swap the point gain enough for this to be a QQ7 win. If Baobonk dies, it's a QQ7 win. This is so close already, and I'm trying to figure out here as the Kremlin of Broadbonk is just jawsing his way up to Peachy Deo, who is now getting closer and closer to being completely stuck. This is very, very interesting here. The Can't Bonks Shimikaze tossing a whole bunch of torpedoes at where he knows Peachy Deo will have to go to avoid the Kremlin. However, the Kremlin not moving forward anymore as a bunch of single-fire torps are coming at him from the Minotaur Polderberg. Both of these teams doing very well, but only 39 seconds remaining until Bonks walks away with this game and with this series. They need a kill. They need a kill so bad. QQ7 needs a kill in order to secure this, and I don't think they're going to find one. 30 seconds left. Who's it going to be? Baobonk went all the way up to the A-Lon, ready for the next match, just because he knows he cannot let his points leave his ship.
Yeah, it looks like Double O Duke tried to make an aggressive play over at Bravo and just realized he doesn't have the time. They tried to wrap the Salem of Turret Bonk, and they actually got him down below 10,000, but it's a Salem, and Salems have massive, massive heals. Triarch pulling forward, going down to 9,700, is unable to secure it as the points go over. Bonks is going to take it, takes the series 3-0. QQ7 without their caller leaves them leaderless and behind in the series. Unfortunate, as both did play well. That was a tight match that went one way, then the other way. Some excellent, beautiful plays coming out of the Minotaur as it was moving, making things happen, but it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, it really a shame because QQ7, this team especially, had done very well up until now, and unfortunately this was probably not the way they wanted to go out, but well done to them anyway. Good luck to these horny miscreants from Bonks here, as they'll be going on now to meet the winner of Star versus SCCC. I don't know who that would be at this point. I don't believe it's. I don't believe that has been actually finished yet. So I may go ahead and. Oh, actually, I believe it has. I don't know if. Well, this is 5 minutes behind anyway, so it looks to me as though SCCC swept Star 3-0. So it's going to be BONKS versus SCCC going into the finals to see who walks away as king of the North American seas. That's exciting. Okay.
Well, are we going to be casting that, or are we going to be casting the losers bracket? What's going to be the next for us?
I mean, I want to cast the final.
Okay.
I want to do that. Is that cool with you?
Absolutely, man. Rawr, let's do it. Rawr.
Folks, we're gonna take a quick break here, real quick, while we figure out the deets of getting set up to do the next game. So that'll be the finals coming up soon. Thank you all for watching. If that's it for you, but please follow us. Please continue to follow us as we get ready to cast the finals. We're gonna take a little break. I'll do a giveaway myself. Oskans might do one himself in the meantime. So stick around.
Yeehaw, see ya.